If you want to learn an exact item to invest in, you came to the wrong place because this is going to be the full investing guide when it comes to Counter-Strike 2. We will go over everything from timing the market to answering popular questions that investors may have. This is more for new players that may have just joined the game recently and want to learn more about the market. What's really important when you're just starting off is for you to discover your own goal. There's a few different goals which you might have. One is more so for short term, and this goal is just really getting in and out with profit to then reinvest or buy whatever item you might want. This involves some medium risk, and also you need some experience on the market, as you need to actually understand what items have the potential to rise in a short period of time. An example of this would be Rio, as it was able to over double to triple in price in just a few days after the sale ended. Now, this is important to not get confused with market manipulation, which is more common than you might think for the Counter-Strike market. It's important to sort of understand the difference between the two, but on the other hand, we have long-term investing goals, which here your goal is more so just safety and not really having to worry about missing any hypes or selling at the right times. This involves low risk and you don't really need that much experience, as you can sort of just invest into a few items and then completely forget about them. An example of this would be a case like Breakout, as it consistently rises over time with it only having butterfly knives inside, which are the most demanded in the entire game. But also any case is good when we're talking about long term, just due to the case system which we have in place. So once you sort of understand what goals work best for you, maybe you're going to be looking to invest more short term, long term, a mix between both. Everyone's a little bit different. It's then important to understand different market events. The one thing about the Counter-Strike market is that it's what is classified as a free market, meaning that we as the players set the prices for the pixels in the game. So any slight change or news we have can cause hundreds or even thousands of players to go ahead and mass buy an item, making it then explode on the market. Sometimes these are for solid reasons, like the clutch case getting discontinued from the drop pool, but then there's other ones which make a lot less sense and fail in comparison, like the AUG Storm incident from TikTok. So that's why it's very important to understand how the market works, the impact of certain events on particular items, and knowing the difference between what's natural growth, manipulation, or really just a short-term hype. This is key to being profitable and maximizing your investments. There are generally two types of a natural progression. The first one is when someone is specifically targeting a certain item and just influencing the market to drive up the price. A great example of this, really just any big news that brings a lot of attention to extremely specific items causes a lot of unnatural movement on the market. Now, although the Counter-Strike market brings some insane returns for many investors, it's not like it's completely perfect, and it does go through crashes from time to time. These usually take place a few times a year, which are caused by certain events, such as new releases of operations, or could even be various different Steam sales. This is often one of the best times to be a buyer or an investor, as if you spend any time looking at the Counter-Strike market, you probably know it doesn't go down that often. So what makes a good investment compared to others? Usually the items which bring the best returns include items which have a set quantity and can only go down or be benefited by the player base growing. For instance, many stickers have a discontinued supply, so as they get applied onto various different skins, their price explodes. Or when a new player comes to the game and wants a number K agent, they need to get one from a Broken Fang investor, as there's no agent pack for them to go ahead and get their own from. So finding investments that are available for a limited amount of time is known to be extremely successful. Now, this is where we're going to start to talk about various different groups of items and really just their pros and cons so you can get a feel of what might be the best for you. Let's begin with one of the most popular, which are cases, as there is many of them in the game. They're split up within the prime drop pool, rare, and then also discontinued, and each different category of cases has their own pros in terms of investing. The pros for all of them is that there's a high demand. You could easily say that cases are the most liquid items in the game, as millions get sold every single day. There's also a very low risk when it comes to cases, and they have a high potential if you get them pretty early on. The current system which we have for cases is very good for investors, as pretty much more get opened every single month than get dropped, which if you know anything about supply and demand obviously causes the price to continually rise. The cons for cases is that they are considered more long-term investments that take some time to grow and become profitable. Although they have been growing a little bit faster recently, there is still other investments that give better gains in a shorter amount of time, for instance like stickers. As well, every single case is unique, meaning that some will just be flat out better than others. So it's important to fully understand, do some research into what's needed inside a case for it to be liked, including the different knives and gloves, and as well as different skins that people will want and the different market trends that take place. And well, that's where we go into the next con, and that's where a case which may be looked at as one of the best, like the old clutch case, can easily get replaced when Valve adds a new one with the same gloves or knives inside, taking away a lot of the old demand. The clutch case was the most open and known to be the best for a few years, obviously until more recently we got the Revolution case with the same gloves inside. So how do you pick a case to invest in? This is where you gotta determine your return on investment. Sometimes we just classify this as ROI on the channel, which depends on several different factors. The primary factors being what purchase price you're going to be paying and the popularity or the potential of the case in the future. Obviously for your initial price, the safest way to go about it is to get the cheapest buy-in as possible. This is why a lot of people favor cheaper cases, as they're able to just buy a lot more than if it was something that was a few dollars. You also want to make sure you're taking a look at the popularity and the potential for the case, as a case which has popular rare items, for instance like a covert M4, AK, AWP, some really good gloves or skins, generally do a lot better long term compared to cases which have a lot less popular items, for instance like covert pistols, SMGs. Like a great example of this would be the weapon case number 3. It's just a case of pistols and it performs pretty bad over time, while on the other hand the breakout case is the only case that contains original butterfly knife finishes and is extremely popular because of that. Now you also see many people try to predict what case will go into the rare drop pool next, and this is something that gets attempted but usually just gets thrown out by Valve, as they will just do whatever they want. So predicting the next rare case isn't exactly the simplest thing. There are usually some signs that you can point to, for instance like at the moment the fracture or the snakebite case, but it's important to note Valve loves to troll us, so don't get your hopes up and just go all in. Now let's talk about major items, which usually take place twice a year. You can find that they go on sale for 70 to 75% off near the end of the major tournaments. These include different capsules, have also had different patch packs, graffitis, and even potentially many others that have just not been released yet. The pros to these is that there's a finite quantity to them. No matter how many people purchase them throughout the major, their supply can only get decreased afterwards, meaning that prices have always risen given enough time. Take a look at RMR as an example. Even though it was oversupplied by millions, years later it's now rising and it's profitable for the investors who held on. As well, certain items such as autographs or stickers from the major usually net some of the best returns for CSGO investing. 10x returns are extremely common for stickers when you do the right research. For instance, you take a look at the mouse sticker for Stockholm, the Cloud9 holo from Antwerp, and really just many more. I mean, the Stockholm Challengers capsule has over 25x in price since the original sale, which was really only last year. Now the cons to this though is that sometimes they are just highly invested into. The large oversaturation of major investments tend to flood the market. For example, just take a look at Antwerp. It's very profitable at the moment, but months after it released, it was negative, and anybody who sold at the time was losing money just because of how many investors there was. Everyone was just undercutting each other on the market until obviously a lot of that supply got eaten up. Another con is that there's varying designs from every sticker in every major, from teams to autographs to holo to paper. Every single sticker is different. With so many different options, it makes it a little bit harder to find the right one. Now as well, there's also limited time items. Items like operation stickers, graffiti collections, agents, patches appear to be a one-time limited set of items. The pros to these is that they're only available as drop redeemables during operations. You take a look at the Shattered Web rewards or even the Riptide sticker collections, which means that there's going to be a finite quantity that bring good long-term potential. The supply can only decrease with time, so you just have to have a little bit of patience. As well, as time between operations can vary and players could be waiting years for the next operation, this leaves a lot of time for limited time skins and other items to rise in value. As well, operation items usually look incredibly good. Take a look at the Gungnir for example, which is now the most demanded and liked op in the game, which is an operation skin. The cons to this though is that they have the potential to really get mass bought. If people catch on to the potential investment early on, it can take a very long time for them to rise. For example, the Broken Fang sticker collection. A lot of people invested into it, so it's not that demanded for now, and it barely rose in price after a few years. Into a few more specific items from operations, let's talk about agents. these are only available from operations at the moment, which means that their pro is that they have an extremely limited supply, seeing as they are a high tier redeemable from operations. The cons to this though is that new agents designs come out every operation, which will replace some of the demand for old agents. As well as this, the thing that differs agents from a lot of other investments is that they're not consumables, meaning that their supply doesn't really get used up. But obviously as the player base grows, that does increase the demand for them. The next item are patches. It's very important to understand the two different patch types. The first type is just normal patches. These are from standard patch packs, and their supply is literally unlimited and they're not an investment at all. You can just find these in the in-game store, but then there's also exclusive patches, which are either from operations or past majors like Stockholm. We're only going to be talking about exclusive patches because obviously those are the investment. The pros to these is that they're very limited in supply. The supply also only goes down when more people apply them, as 3 can get used per agent. As well, at the moment there's only one set of limited time patch packs, which is Stockholm at the moment. The cons to this though is that there is low demand, as you're not really able to see them in the game as the person who owns the patches. It's also a very niche market, as somebody will need an agent first. So before we continue, seeing as it was just mentioned, let's go into the in-game offers. This is where when players open up their game, they'll notice they're presented with 4 different coupons to buy various different things which release in the game. This can include some sticker capsules, music kits, pin capsules, and a bunch of other things. Players can also search for any of these past coupons and just purchase them directly. It's usually asked if any of these items can be good investments, and it's important to realize that these are not good investments. A lot of these have been in the game for an extremely long time and they have no plans to ever remove them. This is just something you should probably stay away from if you are an investor. So what about major graffitis? We sort of mentioned them earlier, but we didn't talk that much about them. With GRAFFITI 2019, Valve went ahead and changed the entire way major team graffitis work. They no longer made them something that you had to purchase, as many players at the time were not enjoying the fact that you had to pay for a graffiti, so Valve went ahead and ditched the entire idea. This means that old team graffitis from majors like Atlanta, Boston, and also London have a limited amount of supply, and long term can really only go up as supplies dwindle. Though there's a very low demand for these items, seeing as you can only use them 50 times per graffiti. Now back to a few operation items, let's talk about operation exclusive skins. These skins only drop during past operations as rewards or recently in a star redeem system like the 2021 collections in Operation Riptide. They tend to rise when the operation ends. However, the more operations that get released, the higher the total supply on the market, and thus the longer it usually takes for them to go up in price. Operations have been seeing longer waits and gaps in between, so it is pretty hard to predict when the next operation will be coming, but usually Valve likes to give us some hints beforehand. As well, more recently, we're seeing a lot of tweaks to the balance and reward systems of operations as they're continually changing them, but it's important to realize as they change them, it's always beneficial for the ones who invested into them. For instance, the change between the Shattered Web Battle Pass system to the new star system which we're using is very good for investors, as they can sort of just pick the exact items they want to invest into rather than just getting a mix of all of them. Back to operation collections though, usually what you'll see is investors buy up the lower quality skins, which are what get used up for trade ups, so that as time goes on and people trade up to these items, they are left to be buying it from the investors. So let's talk about a few questions which usually commonly get asked. This is, well, should I invest in older cases like, let's say, the Bravo Weapon Case 1? And this is where the best opportunities for your return on investment is to buy cases at the lowest price possible. Buying older, more expensive cases like the Bravo case is not as desirable as you might think, because the volume of sales is nearly equal to the rare drop rate. As remember, any case which is in the rare drop pool equally has a 1% chance. So the Bravo case and the Prisma case, even though there's a huge difference in price, both have equal chances. Now that's not to say that some of these more expensive cases can't be invested into and you cannot make profit off of, but generally there is way better options that you can find out there. Now let's say maybe it's been a few months and you're making some profit now, and now you want to know, when should I sell because I'm making some money? And well, this is more of a personal question. Nobody but yourself can make that decision. It's very important to sell when you are satisfied with your profits and the returns that that you've made. Do not panic and think that you need to sell your items that you bought as well. Make sure you do your research and find items that you're comfortable investing in, with the risk that you might lose a bit in the short term, but you believe in the long-term potential. You also don't have to sell everything at once. You can sell off just a fraction, maybe just half of what you have, to then recoup your initial investment and then use the new balance for new opportunities and just diversify your portfolio. Usually before you invest into something, ask yourself, do you believe it will go up in the future? This is the complete Counter-Strike 2 investing guide, which took me weeks to put together, so if you are still watching this video all the way till the end, it will be very appreciated if you give it a like.